Hello, hey there. Welcome to SharkCast Pod, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world, the mighty Cronulla Sharks. This is a Monday morning edition of Catching Up with Kieran over coffee about Cronulla. Brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the Royal Motor Yacht Club, Import Hacking, and Jason Hawes at Cripps & Cripps Real Estate. Definitely a shout out to the Royal Motor Yacht Club, Import Hacking. They put up with my bad attitude on Thursday night, and they had succulent drinks and food for everyone to enjoy. Big screens, audio, great place to watch any footy, so head down there and tell them we sent you. This morning we have our friend Kieran. Hi Kieran, what jersey are you wearing?
So I think this is the 2021. I think from memory, it might be the 2020, but it's the members jersey that has all the players' names on it, the kind of the three-quarter length. So I'm just looking right now at Tawira Nikau, one of my favorite Sharks players of all time, and an absolute travesty that we did not keep him at the club for longer. And I read his book, and he had an interesting story about why he left, and I think it involved like a videotape on the bus on grand final week. So if that never
What?
happened, maybe he stuck with us, and
What? Can
maybe
you
we
tell
win
the
in
story?
19.
Can you tell the
Well,
story?
yeah, there was. This is my memory of this book, and I read this book like back in 2003, 2004. It's called Walking Tall, I think, because it
Yeah,
goes into his whole life. He's had a lot of tragedies and stuff like that.
yeah.
And there was a celebrity, I think it was from memory, who had been in a questionable movie, and someone put that movie on the team bus during the grand final week, and he got blamed for it,
Oh,
and he said it wasn't him, and yeah, apparently just he went on holidays. I think from memory, went to like Bali or Fiji, and had an offer from the Storm and said, you know what, I'm going to take this up, and yeah, the door he went, and we never got him back. So a bit of a depressing start to the catch up this morning.
I vaguely remember that, but I wouldn't have thought about that for a long time. That's not good.
He he killed it in the grand final that the Storm won. Like he was one of the key players,
He's a
right?
great
So you just
player.
think if he was there in 2019, oh sorry, in 1999, what could the Sharkies have actually done?
Or even 01, 02.
Yeah, exactly. He was some player. That mullet was ahead of its time. Like he would have the best hair in rugby league today, and he had it back in the mid-90s. It was wet. He was the original Nico Hines with the wet
Yeah,
hair.
I don't want to talk about mullets because it's going to get me in trouble. My current state of mind, and about that, we're going to move on. Thursday night, we experienced the loss that was 34-22 to the Parramatta Eels out at Parramatta. They scored 6 tries to 4. They completed 35 of 42. We completed 33 of 36. So our completions were top notch. We both had the same amount of tackles in the opposition 20. They made 3 more line breaks than us. They offloaded 10 more times, which was not good for us. We both missed around 44 tackles. And an open game of rugby league, some spectacular tries scored by both teams. In the end, one team defended better, and it wasn't the black, white, and blue. I want to start there, Kieran Fraser, with what is going on with our defence. 3 weeks in a row, conceding 30 points, 2 losses. The Roosters game you sort of understand, high flying, hard to maintain. We've seen that week in, week out. A Penrith team missing some stars at home, 42 points. And then 34 to Parramatta, even though they have some returning stars. What's happened to our defence?
I think the most concerning part for the defense was a lot of the tries that they scored were kind of soft tries that we haven't seen. I think if some of those tries that have been scored against us, like versus the Roosters or even the Panthers games, that you kind of go, all right, well, that was pretty hard to defend. But there was one try I think where Junior Paulo ran through 5 guys, like literally just walked straight over 5 different players, and those guys have been making those tackles all season, right? So that was the most concerning thing for me. I think it was a kind of a case where our middles weren't able to get the dominance that we needed. And, they've played a lot of big games back to back against a lot of big forward packs. And this is why we need, the likes of Hamlin and Toby back on the field, just because, yeah, it's starting to take a toll now. My thinking a few weeks ago was, if Hazelton and Kafusi can hold that first 20 and, hold out the opposition pack, our bench can roll over anybody. But I think now maybe a bit of wear and tear on those guys because they're having to be up for so long. is probably just a little bit too much at the moment, and that's just causing issues everywhere. And again, watching that game was like watching the Sharks defend last year because they were just getting torn apart at all different parts of the field.
So my train of thought is similar to that, in that we really need a break. We need a bye. We need some weeks off, and guys coming back, of course. And that's coming up after the Dolphins games. We've got Broncos away, Dolphins at home. Pretty tough games, both of them. And then I think after that, I want to judge how they're going specifically in that first game back. Not to say I don't think that we can compete well and even win both games, but it's going to take a shift in attitude, especially defensively. We saw some bad one-on-one misses from players that led to tries. We saw some teammates kind of second doubting the people next to them, rushing in, leaving the guy to the right with 3-on-1. And it was just a little bit messy, a little bit shambolic, a little bit, not attitude, but I guess, I don't know, just a mixture for me of tiredness and just kind of almost clumsiness. Because as you say, we know how to defend. We've been one of the better defensive teams all year. But the last 3 weeks it's fallen away. Roosters game, happy to say that's fine. Panthers game, no. Eels game, no. And the Eels game was a bit more clinical. The tries being scored against us than the Penrith games. You know, not so many kicks with lucky bounces, etc. This was a bit more one-on-one. Guys not reading the play. Guys not trusting their teammates. So, bit of work there for the coach and the staff to do, I think, this week leading into the Broncos. It is a longer week, which is fantastic because they need that as well. And I think even those couple of days should freshen them up a little bit. But I do wonder do you think he's going to tinker with the front row this week?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see, one of Toby or Hamanueli starting, just to try and give that sort of different look. And maybe Hazelton goes back to the bench and tries to give us a bit more punch off the bench with those other guys that we've got. Maybe even a Royce starts, and maybe Royce can punch out 20 minutes.
He's been good.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting one to see how it actually all lands there, just because like Hazelton and Kafusi, I think if you were to judge them on the season so far, it's way past the pass mark for me.
Yeah.
But I think, they might be getting those tired legs. And that's where we talk about the depth in the middle and we say how great this is and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is if you can't rotate those guys, then that depth isn't really worthwhile because you're not getting the full advantage out of it.
Let's go to a positive, and that is the number one, Will Kennedy, an absolute dynamite game. Even defensively, I mean, he was caught out here or there a little bit, but even just putting his body on the line, trying to stop people 4 times the size of him. But in attack, just utterly brilliant, setting up brilliant tries, scoring tries, and pretty safe under the high ball. I thought he was our best player easily, and I just love the way he's just coming out of his shell. It's happening every week. It's been happening. It's not a new thing. But he's a really good player.
There was that play, right, where I think he tackled, was it Mitchell Moses or someone like that? And he was at marker on the wing at like 25 or 30 out. And then he was able to chase back and stop the kick. And I think it was Joey Johns was saying it's because he sprinted the whole way and he didn't hesitate. And, in a tight game like that, he could have been excused for being a bit tired because he was everywhere for us, with the ball in defense. It's been his best season for us, but I've seen some question marks being raised lately about, is he the man to be the fullback for the Sharks to take us to a title? But I don't think that criticism is valid when he is the best performing player in that game, right?
Like, how would he not be the best option we have?
Yeah. Well,
like, who else on the market are you going to get,
Yeah, and value for money and all those types of things all play a different thing, combinations as well, right? There's a huge bunch of different factors there. But I think the interesting thing was when I looked into it, because I was kind of like, well, why are we even discussing that? Because I didn't really think it was a topic. But then I saw he's going to be 28, turning 29 at the end of next season when he comes off contract.
Oh, okay.
And if you look across the NRL, there's not a lot of fullbacks in their 30s. Yeah, sure, we've got Tedesco and things like that. But a lot of the fullbacks seem to be this younger style, right? So, I don't know if that's something that is being planned about. I've got no idea on that situation, but I just thought that was quite interesting. So I didn't realize he was a little bit older than what I thought he was.
He did come into grade a little bit later, though.
Yeah, I think he debuted at 22, right? And then obviously we had some COVID years, but I think did he play in like 2017 or so? Like he debuted, yeah, at 22, right? So I'm not good at maths, so
I
can't work
mean,
out that off the top of my head.
I guess what I'm saying is he's still got, I would think, pretty fresh legs for a guy who's going to turn 29 next year.
Yeah, look, I mean, and his style of play, I think he's actually improving year on year, right? So I'm not too concerned about that. It's just something that I thought was interesting because Mooney talks about planning rosters, 5 years out. I just thought that was an interesting one because I didn't realize, he'd be turning 29 when he's off contract, basically.
I mean, the fella coming through who we got from Penrith is really, really good. He's legit, and he could very well be our next fullback. So if that's the planning stage, then and if he exceeds where we think he's going to go, then it's super. It's all okay.
Well, I guess it's a balancing act of a salary cap, right? Because you look at how many players that we have off contract from November 1st, and we're talking like the Ronaldo Mulitalos, we're talking Will Kennedys, we're talking Nikoras. There's a lot of talented players there, and sure, they all want to stay. No one wants to leave. The club wants to keep them all, right? But there will be balancing acts, and they will have to look for cheaper alternatives in certain positions to try and balance out that cap. So I think it's something to watch this space on. But yeah, right now I think he's playing unbelievable, and I honestly would not like to see him play for another club against the Sharks. I think he's kind of earned that status of being with us, playing in 20s, playing with us for a number of years. I hate seeing guys like that play against us.
Well, I think that sometimes people just overlook the fact that he's not some superstar, elite player that gets the headlines and appears on TV shows and all that kind of stuff. Like, you barely hear a word out of the guy. And guys like Joey Johns will talk about him because they know about the game more than anyone. But I think I would encourage our fans and our listeners to just, if you're not already, I know a whole bunch of you are, but just watch him real close. Like, it all starts with him. And I don't think there's a lot he's doing wrong. Occasionally he can be out of position for an attacking kick close to the line. But I mean, in this day and age, the fullback's in the line. I mean, remember when we were growing up, the fullback was never in the line. Now he is. So he can't be everywhere,
And there are so many times where he's in the line, but then he gets back to do the next play behind the line. Like, there are so many times at Shark Park when we watch them, he is defending like on the try line, and then he's at the back and saving something too. So,
I don't think lack of urgency is a problem for him.
No. I think he's a great player, and again, Nico talks about him super highly. I think like Fitzy, when Fitzy's in the press conferences and he's asked about him, you can see Fitzy kind of like gets a bit bigger when he talks about him because he's really proud of the efforts that he puts out there. But look, I think he was our best player on the weekend, so I don't know why the talk started up about that. But the one point I would make about our spine on the weekend is that's probably the first game where Atkinson, Kennedy, and Trindle have ever played together versus Gutherson, Moses, and Brown, which is a spine that took Parramatta to the grand final 18 months ago. Sure, Parramatta's been out of form and all that type of stuff, but I do think that's a point to notice there. When you kind of look through the teams and you look at one-to-one, I think we have a stronger 17 than Parramatta, no question. But when you look at those key positions in that game, they were way more experienced than us, way more battle-tested than us, and way more fluid. And that's maybe why we did look a bit disjointed at times, because that not only plays into the attack, it plays into the defense too, right? I think, you've got players defending next to each other that haven't defended there. Like, Atkins and I think Iro were defending next to each other, right? Or was it Trindle and Iro, right? Like they probably haven't had a lot. They haven't had a lot of reps together defending, right? So I'm not trying to make excuses. It was a really annoying loss for me, but I do think there was a couple of things there that they can improve on and fix.
And I mean, they completed it. What did I say? 33 of 36, something like that. And then they're within 6 points coming off their line, and there's an unfortunate error. And the error's, it's just a handling error. Like, we're not going to blame anyone for that, as in, like, you can't blame a loss on that. But they were coming home strong, and a fundamental got it wrong for them. Unfortunately, Para then score. If we complete that set, who knows what happens? We're definitely back in the game. I do want to talk about the spine, and I've got some thoughts on the halves. And we saw the return of Braden Trindle, and he eased his way back into the game. I thought he was okay. He took over the kicking at one point, and that really helped. The kicking, he found some space for the first time in the game, turned around power a number of times. But I thought Dan Atkinson was the better half, and here's why, Kieran Fraser. I like what I see out of him as far as attitude. And we saw it in that try late in the game. And this is a guy who I believe at this point in time, he's not going to give up on plays. He's not going to give up on games. He's not going to start thinking about next week. He's got a real killer attitude. And I'm not saying other halves and other spine members don't. But if you compare the 6 and 7 on the weekend, the 7 probably had the better half-back kind of game, or the half game. But I thought that Atkinson, in a game where he didn't really shine, his attitude, I thought, kept him in that game.
He's always looking to play football, and he's always looking to do like the short dropouts. He's always looking to attack, and then they could be down by 10 with 2 minutes to go, and he'll still be trying to rush the play to try and get the next thing moving. One of my friends reached out to me the other day, and he was talking about how much he really liked Atkinson, and he said he reminds me of James Maloney, not so much in the style of the football that he plays, but the attitude that he has, where nothing phases him and he just keeps going, and he doesn't get kind of caught up in the different moments. He just keeps wanting to play football and attack. And when you look at how Nico likes to play football, that's what he likes to do. Nico likes to constantly attack and attack and attack. When things aren't going so well, sometimes that can, be a bit disjointed, but there's something to be said there for the way that he plays. And look, Trindle will be better for the run. And that's the other thing, is we had Trindle playing his first game back in 6 weeks. We had Ueli and Toby playing their first games back in roughly around the same. They probably have played maybe one game or two maximum in the last sort of 6-7 weeks. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it's not great. And that performance shouldn't have happened. And I can only imagine how they've been in the four walls. I drive past Shark Park at before 6 o'clock most mornings, and the gym lights have been on almost every single day, and there have been people in there. So maybe that they're getting a little bit angry.
Yeah, I think that, and it's a silly statement, but I think aside from where you're on the ladder and perception of your team, I don't think a loss like that is the worst thing in the world if there's positives that they take out of it. So,
well, yeah. Remember what we said when we looked at this block of games? We said, what's a pass mark? And do you remember what you said?
I would have said 2
of
or
these
3
6
out of
games.
5.
Yeah.
Probably, out of 6? I would have said half.
Out of the 6. Yeah. So right now we go into this Broncos game 3-2, right? So if they can beat the Broncos, they'll finish this block at 4-2, which I think is a great pass mark for where we've been at. But the reality is the Broncos are going to be a real tough test. So there's a real chance that we could finish 3-3. After that game, the draw does become a little bit more favorable to us. But as we've seen with sides like the Dolphins and Bulldogs, they can put together really good performances. So there aren't too many layups, but we won't have a 6-week block like we've just gone through again, which is I'm very happy about.
Yeah. And I think the only real issue as well is the perception of the team, which it does appear does matter to the players and coach. Like, as much as they put up that wall about we don't care what people say about us, it appears that maybe it does, given some of the statements that they've mentioned in the press, which I'm not rehashing. I'm just saying they clearly are affected when people say that they're flat track bullies, etc. And they've proven that they can win under different circumstances. So the whole thing about the walls of the world's falling apart and everything because we didn't win these games, it's like, well, hold up a sec. We beat Melbourne in Melbourne without Nico, with a guy who's barely played rugby league, and then we beat the high-flying Roosters in front of a packed Suncorp at Magic Round. Like, yeah, should have kept going on with the jobs, but I don't think they're flat-track bullies anymore.
Well, they're coming second on the ladder, and the only reason why they're
Equal
second is
first.
because Melbourne has had 2 buys as well, right? We've
Yep.
only had the 1 buy at the moment, so the reality of the season is actually quite good. Back-to-back bad performances compound the negativity. If those 2 losses were spread out a little bit more, it wouldn't have been so bad. But those 2 losses have undone the goodwill that the 2 wins against the Roosters and Storm had, right? So, a couple of
Sure.
weeks ago, we were paying $1.95 for the minor premiership. I don't know what we're paying right now, but once we get through this Broncos game, the buy is very favorable for us for the run home, right? So I still think there's a really great chance for us to finish at the top end of the ladder. The concern is, how tested will the Sharks get in those last few games? But the last game is at Brookvale, right? So another hoodoo game for us to finish on, right? So there's so much time left in this season. I don't know if we're at the halfway point of the season just yet, but if I was
Just,
to
yeah.
grade where we're at, if I was to grade this season, I'm giving it a solid B plus. The last 2 weeks have really hurt us. But if you take out those performances where we've kind of dropped our lollies, it's been a really strong season. I think the concerning thing though is when we leak points, we leak a lot of points. So you go back to the Tigers game, right? There's no way that we should let in that many points. You go back to the Penrith game. They second or was the highest points ever scored against us at Shark Park.
Second most, yeah.
Second most, right? And then the Eels, even with bringing those players back, shouldn't be scoring 32 points, right?
No.
So it's a bit concerning there, but I think we can get there.
Yeah, we're halfway through the season and we're equal first. I mean,
yeah,
complain all you want, but that's actually pretty good. Let's talk about the centres. I thought both Jesse and Kale had unhappy nights in certain ways you view the game, I guess defensively specifically. What did you make of their performances? I think that they both will bounce back just fine, but what did you make of those guys?
Yeah, I think it didn't seem like we got that punch that we normally get from the back five to try and get us out of some of the situations. And I don't know if it's maybe with a guy like Euro, he's played 7 games now or something like that. Maybe his body needs that rest with the bye coming up because he's getting targeted by these teams because when they look at that they go, well, this guy is the least experienced player in the back line. Like, let's go for him, right? And he's done a great job so far this season. But that does wear on a body over time, right? So I'm expecting a big bounce back game from Jesse. I don't know if the Origin stuff maybe had Jesse a little bit down or it was in his head. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm a big Jesse fan, and I think with Euro, I don't know. It's been one where I'm super impressed with him. The yardage, the stats always look great on the paper.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I'm very happy that we've got Sifa in the middle, but I think I'd like to just see a little bit more of him in attack and how we could feature him a little bit more because it doesn't seem that we hit him as much as we maybe hit Sifa back when Sifa was there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Eero had the glaring missed tackle on that try, but A, he'll learn from that, and B, I'm not going to hang the guy out dry for one missed tackle. I know it was an important one, and he should be making those ones, but I want to see some more experience from him, and then if he does it in 5 games in a row, well, then you go, well, maybe this isn't working. But I think for the moment, he's doing fine. I tell you what, you said that we didn't have the back 5 punch. And I know why you're saying that, but let me read you the meters for those guys. Will Kennedy, 179. The Tongan Fisherman, 136. Jesse Ramian, 163. Kale Iro, 137. Ronaldo Militalo, who did make some long breaks, but still 20 runs for 217 meters. So they certainly got all that happening, and not one forward made over 100 meters. So
wow,
without those guys,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, Ronnie, I actually thought Ronnie had a really good game. Ronnie was in a lot of efforts and always trying and never giving up. But yeah, the Jesse meters surprises me because I just felt like he had a bit more of a quiet game. And yeah, Ero's stats are always through the roof. I feel like I missed half of his runs.
Compared to the Penrith game, I thought it was a vast improvement. I know you can only improve from that, but I didn't walk away from that game going, God, we were terrible. It was more like if they defended better, they would have won by 10.
Yeah, and I think it was just a frustrating game because they came back and they were looking like they were trying to get on top, like towards the end before that drop ball. So
Well, they finished both
there's a lot
halves
of
real strong, real strong.
yeah, yeah. So Fitzy was talking about some of the energy levels in the presser as well, and thinking we could maybe come over the top of them at the end. And momentum is such a crazy thing. So if we don't drop that ball, then maybe we do come over. But maybe if we do win that game, it masks some of those issues that Junior Paulo ran through 5 people and scored, and like
Yeah,
those sort of things shouldn't have happened. And there was a lot of
yeah,
soft tries that they let in.
yeah,
So sometimes it's not great to lose, but sometimes you do learn more from the losses because you're forced to deal with, the warts and the scars versus pulling out a late win and, jagging it and moving on to the next week saying happy days.
yeah. Uh, I mean, throw in the origin factor. We're missing our two best players. They both do so much for us, and I thought that the back row tried hard, but they can't replicate what that guy does. Like, it's just literally impossible to replicate that. So
Yeah.
I was quite concerned about this game going into it. I thought, you're taking out Hines, taking out McInnes, they're getting their guys back. That's an uphill battle for starters. And it doesn't matter. Like, we completed 30 of 33 or 33 of 36, whatever it was. And it doesn't matter that we were that good with the ball. It just didn't happen. Like, when we were in the inside 20, it didn't happen. Defensively in our own 20, it didn't happen. And yeah, it was frustrating. It was tough.
It's a lot of leadership that they lost with McInnes and with Nico, right? Those are two real impactful leaders that they have. And I think it's compounded because we don't have a guy like Finucane anymore, right? And so we've been sort of saying, look, this is actually kind of worked out because we've been able to replace Finucane with like a Royce Hunt or someone with much big power game. But in some of those moments there, they lacked a little bit of leadership, right? And Teague
Yeah.
Wilton, I thought, did a good job as captain. But it's a tough battle when you're going up against Para, who have got those players back. They've just sacked their coach. They're trying to salvage their season. And Mitchell Moses absolutely destroyed us, and that kills me
Yeah.
because if there's
He
one
was pretty
team I
good.
can't stand, Mitchell Moses and Gutho, the way they play, it just drives me up the wall with all the complaining. Like, Gutherson knocked the ball on and then got up and complained to the referee that he knocked the ball on. Like, what are you complaining about? Like,
I know.
it's a knock on.
I know.
What's going on? Like, so I hate losing to Parramatta, but at least I didn't drive out there. So there's every cloud has a silver lining.
It was a consideration. We If we had Mitch Moses, we'd love him. I don't know if we'd love Gutho, but we'd love Mitch Moses.
Oh, we love all of them, right?
He's
And I'm
very
sure
good.
other fans say the same things about Ronnie and all those type of people that we absolutely love. So, yeah, we don't have them, so I don't like them.
All right, so Sharkies lose 34-22. Longer week to prepare. We go up to Brizzy on Saturday, or we're playing in Brisbane on Saturday. Probably go up a few days before. We don't win much against the Broncos at Suncorp, but we've seen this year we can already win at that ground, so that's not a hoodoo for us this year. And it's going to be tough. I mean, we don't know what the situation with Origin for both teams. They've got a few players. We've got a few players. We don't know who's going to back up, who won't back up. So it's hard to kind of judge that game right now, but we do know that Brisbane are going to be very competitive. And I would imagine they're favourites, and we're going to have to be on our game. But I think it's going to be one of those games, if we win, where we surprise a few people,
It's going to be a real tough task. And personally, I just can't see Nico being able to play. If he's going to play on Wednesday night with his calf, that's a really quick turnaround to get him on a plane up to Brisbane and get his body right. McInnes, yeah, I think he'll probably back up just because he's an absolute lunatic. But that Broncos team is really good. And when I look at the teams who I think can win the comp, Brisbane is 100% one of those teams I think can knock off Penrith in the finals. They've got such a big forward pack. Their backs are insane. Ezra Mann is absolutely on fire.
He's awesome.
Yes, they're missing Reynolds at the moment, but they've got so many strike weapons. Reece Walsh, like they've got so many good players there in that team. So it's going to be interesting to see how many of those guys back up. Like Payne Haas, they got some real key players that will be playing on Wednesday. But yeah, Broncos always have depth, right? They always seem to put together a team and give us a bit of trouble. So I don't think we have a too grave a record against Brisbane in general, let alone in Brisbane. So
No.
look, this could be one of those line in the sand moments where they sort of say, all right, well, again, we're back in the position where everyone expects us to be. What do we want to do about it? And they got a real chance to go up there and send a message.
I'd say a good way to do it is just looking at some stats now. And we mentioned this on the last episode, maybe you and I did. Third best completion rate, therefore third best errors. We're completing at 82%. Only the Warriors and the Titans are completing at more, and it's by a tiny bit. And now, okay, so you go, for example, Brisbane have the worst completion rate, but they're still pretty good teams.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to, but you still got to do that to be in games at least. And we saw that against Para. We were in the game, just couldn't go on with it. So that's super impressive to me. Defensively, we've slidden a little bit. We're down to the fifth best defensive team in most categories. So not nightmare situation, but we've slidden from first or second down to fifth. And attack wise, we're sixth. So that's fine. We're averaging over 25 points per game. Really, only the Roosters are at 29. Everyone else is around the 25 mark in that top tier. So that's all going okay. So all those kind of, KPIs, for want of a better word, they're actually pretty good. It's more just how you manufacture it on the night. And I think with Nico Hines there, if he plays, I think he adds so much. And I think if he plays against Para, we probably win. If it's just Cam McInnes, still an uphill battle, but he'll get through a lot of work. But with Nico there, I'm not saying without him it all falls apart, because we've seen that it doesn't. But I think that was the difference between Para and Cronulla, just that little bit of class in playmakers.
If Moses doesn't play and Nico plays, it's a completely different game, right? So, look, I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for that, because it's just a frustrating thing. But there is a reality to what you've said there, because it's absolutely true. And I think when we look at the stats, I think the one thing that just concerns me is the offloads. When we seem to be getting rolled over, it's because teams are offloading at will, and then they're throwing the ball out wide, and our edges aren't handling it, right? And so
in years gone past, months gone past, someone like you has said that to me, and I've gone, yeah, but look at this, we're the sixth best team containing offloads. This morning, we're the second worst. We concede over 10 per game. Only the Broncos, who we're playing, concede more. So now there is some data to back that up.
Yeah, well, maybe the offloads in the past were just at the wrong times for us, because they were just impactful offloads. But I think with this one, and it would be interesting to see where we've sat on that offload stat, over the last 4 weeks compared to, say, 4 weeks before that, because it feels like the last few weeks there have been so many of them, right? And when those teams are doing that, and then they're getting the ball to another fresh forward who's then punching forward another 10 meters, getting a quick play the ball, they're constantly on their feet and moving backwards, right? And so I think that's why, Toby and Braden are so important for us to get those big guys back and get them fit. Like, it's one thing to have them coming off the bench and playing, these small cameos, but we need them out there punching big minutes. And that will also then allow us to properly utilize the bench. So, a few weeks ago, I said I wasn't sure with how we would do the best makeup on that. I think I've seen enough now where I know now that those guys, they came into the season as our two best props, and they should be starting.
So over the last month, we've actually been the worst, and we've crept up to sort of 16th, as in second worst. So it's been poor for at least a month. So
exactly,
that's something that they can work on.
Like, look at who we played in the last month, right? And if we want to do anything in the finals, it's going to be those teams, right? So that's something that they've really got to address, because they're so costly to us at the moment.
All right, we've got 2 bits of business to get through before we go. And the first one is Random Shark of the Week. And when I tee these ones up, I have no idea how hard they are for you because you are a bit of a weirdo when it comes to this stuff. So I've picked one this
Well, this
week.
jersey helps today.
Well, yeah. I've picked one this week, which I basically I'm trying to stump myself. And I think I've stumped myself, but it doesn't mean I've stumped you. So here we go, random shark of the week. Born in 1977. Yeah?
Yep.
Junior club, Tweed Heads. Position, all I will say is he was a forward for now. And he played 7 NRL games. He played 7 NRL games between 1995 and 1997. All 3 seasons were for the Sharks. Therefore, he was in the squad for 3 final series, including a grand final, in the squad. So to recap, born in 77, Tweed Heads Jr., a forward. He played for the Sharks between 95 and 97. 7 games. Any clues yet? Any tips? Thoughts?
I'm drawing an absolute blank on this one.
So in 1995, he played 4 games, 2 from the bench, 2 starting. He debuted against the Gold Coast Seagulls on the Gold Coast, round 9, 1995. There's a theme here. His last match in 1997 was more high profile. His last match was in the major semi-final of the Super League season in Townsville against the Broncos.
Why was that in Townsville?
No idea. Some sort of John Rebo idea. Let's go to Townsville and make the game the biggest thing ever.
It's Sharks versus Broncos. Wow. I've got absolutely no idea on this one, mate. I am absolutely stumped.
One career try. He did play an international. Played 2 internationals in 95 for Samoa.
That should help me, but it doesn't.
I feel I might have you here.
Hang on, let me just look at my arm here.
Okay. You can look at your arm. Nothing else. Read out some names for me.
We've got Wade Forrester.
It's not Wade Forrester.
Matt Daylight.
Not Matt Daylight.
We've got Dion Coop.
It's not Dion Coop. But some good names here for Random Shark of the Week, though.
Is he like a South African?
I would have to look it up. You've stumped me. I don't know who Dion Coop is.
All right.
I feel like you looking at your jersey means you don't know who this is.
I've got absolutely no idea.
I don't know if there's anything else. No, it's not Andrew Neef. I don't know if there's anything else I can give you. Let me just see.
It's killing me because it's like this is on my left shoulder is like all the players that debuted in '95. So I'm trying to get a look at this.
Don't do that. In '97, he played.
On here soon.
In '97, he played 2 games. One was at home against the Cowboys, and one was his last game in the final. I just want to double check something. I might have gotten it wrong about the position. I'm pretty sure I didn't. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Maybe just
Len Barton.
Who?
Len Barton.
How do you spell that?
LenBarton.
No. You're getting close though. Well, maybe he wasn't a prop. He might have been a winger.
Joe Vitsula.
The random shark of the week is Brian Lamatia.
I'm so sorry, Brian. I can't see his name on my shoulder.
Laumatia. Do you know who Brian Lamatia is?
If you showed me a photo of him, mate, I wouldn't be able to recognize him, and that makes me quite sad. So the '90s stuff is not so much my go-tos. That's harder for me.
Well,
But
it can't be
that's
03 every week.
That's why we're trying to stump it.
Can't
But
be 03 every week.
This jersey is providing some absolute gold. I wonder what Eddie Sewer's up to right now.
I remember Eddie Sewer. So, yeah, look, I can't confirm the position he played. But since retiring, he joined the New Zealand Police, and he's currently, well, whenever this Wikipedia was, the captain coach of the county's Manukau Police Rugby League team.
There you go. So while I was bored the other day, and I was trying to put off doing some work, and I just jumped on that website that lists all the players in history, and I found one guy from like 2003 who I have no memory of, and he doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
Who is it?
And then I tried to Google his name, and I couldn't even find like a photo of him in a Sharks jersey. I can't remember the name. But again, this is the whole point. I just can't remember this bloke's name. But it's absolutely got me. I think it was. Can't find it, of course, now. But it was a front rower that I'd never heard of. I think he plays Nick Patterson. I think he had a nickname of Banjo, right? But
I remember Nick Patterson. I remember a Nick Patterson, yeah.
Yeah, he played 2 games in 2 games in 2002, 1 game in 2003. I do remember the nickname Banjo, but I just remember when I saw that, I was like, if that ever came up, there was no way I would be able to remember him.
All right, we got you. Now, before we go, you have just started watching The Bear, the American drama. It's actually listed as a comedy to win awards, but I'm going to call it a drama. You've watched 1 episode, and many of our listeners have watched 2 seasons. The 3rd one's coming out real soon. What were your thoughts on the first episode?
I really like the main actor. I can't remember his name, but I watched The Iron Claw on the plane last week, and I really liked that movie. So I thought, well, I'll give this show a crack because you've been sort of saying it to me. It was very chaotic. I was very stressed watching how these kitchens worked and everything like that. I could see the potential for this show. I really liked the soundtrack as well. There were some really cool songs in there that were just playing in the background of they didn't make a big deal of those songs playing, but if you knew those songs, it was just kind of cool to hear.
Absolutely.
I could see myself getting into this show. So I will watch episode 2 tonight, and I'll try and get through as many episodes as I can this week. So looking forward to it.
They're shorties, most of them. They're around half an hour, I think.
Yeah.
The soundtrack
pack a lot of swear words into it.
Yeah, you can't have the kids around. It gets better. It's the first episode's great, but it gets better. It's a really strong 2 seasons of, I call it drama, and the main guy's unbelievable in anything he does. And I think it's the little show that could. It's just it caught on and it spread like wild. It just. I'm a huge fan of the show, and I can't wait for you to sink your teeth into it. I think you're going to stick with it, which is exciting. And I know a lot of our listeners have already consumed The Bear, but I'm excited for you to be at that position. You've never seen the show and it comes on. That's a great feeling. As someone who loves TV, it's a great feeling.
It's a great feeling when you see that FX logo come up at the start, because it just takes me back to all those great shows 10 years ago that were coming through, like Breaking Bad and all that type of stuff. And it's like
this is one of those. It's just a slightly different genre maybe, but it's I think you're gonna like it. I really do.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
All right,
and I will finish Curve as well.
That's a whole other episode, dude. That stresses me out. That's for another time. But we have the Broncos this week. Should be interesting viewing. And I hope that the lads can get the job done. I'm sure they can if they play to the best of their abilities. Kieran, we want to thank everyone for listening, for watching, for tuning in. It's been a great year so far for us on the potty, and we love doing this. So get in touch, sharkcastpod@gmail.com. We'll get through your mail later in the week. Kieran, a lot of people have written in and emoted to us, so we're going to get to that. And all I can say to a section of those people writing in is that it ain't over till it's over. So we're coming equal first. But we'll get to
And
that.
I would like to take this to say sorry to everybody for talking about grand final tickets 2 weeks ago and just ruining everybody's season. So, look, I'll personally wear that. If you see me around, feel free to heckle me.
Yeah, we've had some people write in and say that to us, that at the time you mentioned grand final tickets and scenarios, the downhill slump started, and they can't be faulted. It's actually correct. So,
You're all
aside
welcome.
with some defensive lapses, your thoughts on grand final tickets also has, festered into this negativity, which we're going to get out of and get out of it real soon. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be in touch real soon with another ep. Till then, take care. Have a good week, Kieran. See you later, my friend. I will talk to you soon. SharkCast Pod, we can't play the song, so we're just going to play some hip-hop instead. Goodbye, everybody. Speak to you soon. Up, Cronulla.